Found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Downloadable audio episodes can be found on the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kateman. Oh my goodness gracious, what do? I do some stuff. Entrepreneur, author, speaker, helpful coach to small business owners across the country. And today, it's kind of funny, I'm getting sidetracked. I forgot her name.
Josie.
Josie is hanging around with us. And today we have Cindy Brosig, owner of Operation H.E.E.L. That's H-E-E-L.
Correct.
So Cindy, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
I'm excited because I guess just let people know, you were a student in business planning class 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And now I am inside your business.
Yes, it's awesome.
So how about you tell us, what is Operation H.E.E.L?
So Operation H.E.E.L is a nurse-led animal-assisted therapy practice and therapeutic dog training.
Nice. Mm-hmm. All right. And when you say therapeutic dog training, are you training the dogs or using them to therapy for people?
Yeah, well, I'm working with them and humans to enhance wellness. So either in the prevention, maintenance, or recovery from illness, or else I call it dis-ease.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like it. So are you, and is this is the Wonder Dog here?
Yeah, this is one of them. I have 4 rescue
Do you
dogs.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I work with 2 of them.
Okay.
I sometimes will bring in my other dog, Emily. She's a little older, and she likes older people. So,
all right.
Yeah, so dogs have preferences on what age group that they like to work with. Josie, she likes kids. She has from the beginning. Ted as well, which I think you met. We brought Ted to class. Yeah, and he'll be 8 this year, so he's looking at retirement. So
all right.
it's a hard job.
All right.
Yeah.
So you have to tell me, how does therapy with dogs for people work? I mean, you bring the people into this space?
Absolutely, yeah. Why I like this space is because of being out in nature. So all of my classes are indoors and outdoors, all of my programs. If we were to open up this door, it opens to a fenced-in area. I like dogs and humans to work on and off leash.
All right.
So I like the freedom of it.
All right.
And it's
no
healthier.
people on leash.
Yeah, no people on leash.
All right.
Yeah.
And how do you figure out which dog will work with which person?
Oh, it's a great question. Energy. So I look at, so if somebody's a little bit more high energy, I call it spirited, I will bring in a higher energy spirited dog because they tend to match each other and work together. For instance, there are times, so people that are maybe suffering from depression, we maybe start with a dog who's just a little bit more low-key to help get them comfortable, and then we will bring in a dog that's a little bit more energetic to kind of help stimulate them into movement.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now that alludes to the question, how do you train the dog to be a therapy dog?
Oh, awesome questions. So you can't train a dog to like people, but you can train them.
All right.
But that's the key to therapy, right? Is working with the dog and communicating, and how do I form a relationship, right? It takes social skills, it takes body behavior movements, opening your body up to someone or being, closed in. But what I do help with the training part is manners. So, for instance, if we have somebody that's maybe a little bit more nervous, anxiety, I obviously don't want the dog to jump on them to greet them. So
not helping.
No, that just might make things worse.
All right.
Yeah. So I do train for manners, but obviously I look for a dog who wants to work with people, who likes people.
So it's more or almost a personality thing.
Absolutely.
And stuff to train personality.
Yeah.
So to speak. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And all dogs, purebred, mixed bred, work.
All
honestly.
right. Nice. Now, how do people find you? Like, know that you exist? Because I wouldn't know before I met you.
Yes.
I didn't know that dog therapy was a thing.
Right.
Had no idea.
But I will say, I do want to say that you were instrumental in connecting me with the people to help me on my way. You honestly, not only were you a great motivator, you're like, Cindy, you can do this, but you were practical about it. So I thank you for that. From
you're
the bottom
welcome.
of my heart. So if anybody has any questions, talk to James. I loved your honest, truthful approach. So
Oh, thanks.
that's why I'm here today. Let's be honest.
But this is a reward because I get to see your business and launched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you were talking about the business, it took me a little while to wrap my head around what it was.
As it does for everybody.
And all I could think is, how do you market a business like that?
True.
Like, I imagine that's going to be one of the biggest challenges.
It was, because education was key. It's not very well known here. When people think of therapy dogs, they think of the dogs visiting hospitals, clinics, school groups, reading, and that is therapeutic. Those dogs are trained for manners and being in large groups. The handlers are great. Just when I said she was going to be. So this is what I love about, you can't train this, right? So Josie's telling us that she needs attention. She's reminding us to have a little fun, right? So anyways, so it's hard for me. I felt like I was competing against organizations that were already doing it for free. But what I bring to the program, the therapy part, is my experience in nursing. So whether it's in mental health, as nurses, we are trained to work in all sectors. So whether it's postpartum to mental health institutions to, you name it, surgery. Yeah. So often when I would go, so I did start on as a volunteer therapy dog team.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I did, where we went into hospitals. Ted and I, my intro into it was because of my husband being in the military here in Madison, visiting military children. So we were, I guess, attending events called like Yellow Ribbon or Youth Military Kids Camp at Upham Woods. And so what I was finding is, this is really good, but now we could take this to the next level where, let's say there's a kid that's struggling. If you're just doing a one-time visit, you might not see him again, but to be able to work with him on a regular basis, making goals, that's where the therapy comes in.
Nice. All right. So let's back up a step because you're kind of alluding to it.
Yes.
Ted, just as a reminder, was he your first therapy dog?
Yes, he was my first fully. We went through every single training class you could think of. He was definitely more the shy dog. He liked people, but he was just more shy of environment. So we had to work on that a little bit more. So no dog is perfect.
So he's up there. Is it
German Shepherd? Yeah.
All right.
100 pounds of sweet love.
100 pounds. That's a beast.
Josie's only 60.
She's a nice sized dog.
Yeah, she's great.
So you were a nurse before.
Yes.
And what made you decide to start your own business, regardless of what type of business it was?
I guess personally, I saw the effects of having a dog. I wasn't diagnosed, but I did have postpartum depression, looking back. And it was my dog, Aggie, who really helped get me through that spot. Yeah. And I can give you an example some of the things when you have postpartum depression is you don't even remember because you're in such a dark place. I mean, you're already sleep deprived, hormones. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it. But the biggest factor for me was when my husband was gone. So my husband's in the military, so he deployed a lot when I first had kids. And I was home alone a lot. So at night, I would get up, full-blown anxiety. Oh my gosh, someone's breaking in the house. I mean, literally. But what would get me out of that cycle was looking at Aggie, my dog, because I know she would bark if there was someone in the house.
All right.
So it was literally me going, okay, she's not barking. And she'd walk with me. Like, I could tell she's like, okay, I'm walking with you. She was like, okay, I'm not sure why she's walking around at 2, 3 in the morning. So that was a big part of it personally. But I didn't really reflect on that until I got into the volunteering part and seeing how, and then it was like, oh, I get it. I see how it can help turn your life around, whether you're suffering from anxiety, depression, even pain, chronic pain.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. So you were in the military as well?
Yes.
All right. And what did you do in there?
I was a nurse for 8.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So nurse at the military and then moved into private sector?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was a school nurse. So then I I finished my tour, separated from the Air Force. My husband got a job here because we just couldn't, he was in the Army, I was in the Air Force, so we just couldn't make it work, you know, finding a base that would take both services.
Oh, gotcha, okay. They keep it pretty siloed.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
So, so I stayed home for a couple of years, but then I did use my GI Bill and got my master's in nursing.
Oh, wow.
And then I started to study animal-assisted therapy, and I'm like, oh, this is more than just, you know, volunteer, not just volunteering, but volunteering, but in a more professional capacity, I guess.
All right,
So.
nice.
Yeah, I
So
know.
then you said, hey, let's start a business.
Yep.
So how did your husband react when you're like, hey?
At first he was like, sure, I'll support you, until we started looking at what things cost to get there.
Sure you don't want to start a jewelry business or something that would be cheaper?
No, right, exactly, yeah.
All
It was, I have this, like I said, going back to your class, that was the first introduction. So I'm a nurse by trade. I'm a giver, right? I want to just give everything, and it was a hard concept for me to come around that. Oh, I can apply for a grant and take that, or I can, you know, doing a lot of things for free, which there's good and bad with that, and you had mentioned that as well. Starting up is not a bad idea if you're no cost, just to get people in the door and interested.
Right, build awareness.
Right, you know, doing classes or workshops or what have you. But yeah, I think you were totally right about how long it takes to to get to this point. Because look at 4 years, and I mean, we're just now, you know, feeling like this is stable. We can move forward. So.
Got it. All right. But you get this whole building, and this had to take 6 months to a year to put up?
No, actually, we moved it. So I was practicing in my backyard in Sun Prairie.
Okay.
And that's, I think, when I was starting to take your class or towards the end.
Yeah, because you were talking about getting a place in the country.
Correct.
To have the room to be able to do this.
Right. And this was just before everything, like, housing went up. And so we started we started to look, and this place came up, and we're like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to just do it all the way. And so we did take the leap, which was huge.
Right.
And I know you've always said, hey, if you're going to do it, go full in. This, him and in Han, you're not going to get anywhere.
You don't get to dip your toes off the diving board, right?
Yes, you saw, and so we did, and like I said, we anticipated some costs, but again, like you said, it's so much more.
Right.
So be prepared. But at the other end of that is, if you have a good plan in place, and I know you were really good about have a good, strong business plan. Look at the future. Don't just look at what can I do now. You know.
Right.
I think there's so many pieces that all carry weight.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you want to be prepared.
Yeah.
And know, really think about your expenses. Yeah.
Yeah, and be flexible, because my path has changed. I mean, it's a total winding, curvy road.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. Because I was looking at your website and all that you do, and I want to say that you broadened from when we first talked.
Yes.
Because before you were talking, I want to say you were talking about working exclusively with vet families, I believe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I did do that for a while. But I guess the obstacle, and if you're a military family, you know, things change in a minute. So I was flexible, but it's hard for them to commit, because either if they're not moving right, or suddenly a spouse or a partner is gone, and now you don't have time to come, you know. Plus the other part of that too is programs. There's a lot of programs out there, which I don't know, this could be taken wrong. So for instance, being a veteran and having a veteran-owned business, and I would offer my services, a lot of times military organizations would say, yeah, but you're not a nonprofit, so I'm sorry, we can't advertise you, or we can't work with you. Because now but even though I would offer like discounted or free programs, but strictly, and this is out there, so I'm not saying, you know, anything that people don't already know, but so it's hard. So you think, you know, you have your veteran and military group and support, but then yet if you're looked upon as, I think they called it like propositioning families for
Oh,
business. Does that make
interesting.
sense? Yeah. So that kind of, because of just how my service was based, it kind of put up a lot of barriers for me.
Interesting.
So I had to pivot.
All right. So it's so interesting because people assume, myself included at the time, that nonprofit just means either free or you're not bringing any money in or something like that.
Yes.
But in the end, there's people with jobs working at nonprofits, and there's a lot of nonprofits that are pushing a lot of money around.
Absolutely.
So it's like nonprofit in name, and probably in taxes.
Yeah.
But from a business standpoint,
Right. And
they still have the cash flow. They still have to bring money in to pay for the services that they're
And they
offering.
contract with civilian services. So I'm not quite sure. It was a very interesting conversation I've had with several other organizations. And,
All right.
and I'm not the only veteran that's faced this. So
All right.
I would love for that conversation to like open. And, But
I remember being a part of, the group is escaping me, but it's something about, it was an online thing, helping veterans start businesses.
like a boot camp?
I taught one of those, but this is more you're answering questions
Oh,
that
cool.
veterans would have about business.
Okay.
And I remember that I had a blog, so somebody had asked about pricing, whatever, and so I pointed them to a blog, and it got flagged because they said, hey, you can't send people to your website. I'm like, well, the answer to their question is there. I'm not going to type this custom email. It's a small novel, right? So I'm like, you're kind of punishing me for doing this work that's for free.
Right.
So I'm just like, all right, I don't have to answer questions anymore.
Right.
Like, if it's going to be more of a headache to help you,
Exactly.
I'm trying to help you as best I can for no cost,
Yeah.
and you're punishing me for it.
Yeah.
Find your own answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can Google it.
Right, and you hear all the time, support, a certain business, and then not to feel supported among your own community. Yeah.
So I get that. It seems to be like somebody in a committee that has no idea what they're doing made this decision, or a group of people. I guess we've all been on boards where you're just like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of people that don't know what's going on making this decision.
Totally, yeah.
So you just got to roll with it, or just we're going to chase our market somewhere else where you guys aren't involved.
Absolutely,
So, So it sounds like you had to pivot that way.
I did, Which actually was the best thing, because on one of my visits in the school system, I had a parent reach out and say, is this only for military kids? And I said, no. I said, and so that's when I knew, like, this is a good pivot. Like, it should be open to everybody. My specialty is in military families, but I'm absolutely, the service is needed by civilians.
Cool. All right. So where before you would have told her, sorry.
Yeah.
Now you can
Well, yeah.
you can breathe, man. Come on.
You're right.
You can breathe and have problems.
Exactly.
We got it. All right. So how are you marketing this business now?
Honestly, through Facebook.
All right. Paid ads or posts?
No, posts.
Okay.
I've partnered with some rescues.
Okay.
So dog rescues, and helping them with some of their dogs, and so we have this really nice partnership. So they come in, their fosters can come in anytime. I help with training and helping teach them, like, okay, you've got this puppy that's just acting a little different than the others. So it's like teaching, educating. So now they, as a foster, can, if they get another dog in similar, they can start working with that dog right away. So in exchange, and they work with trainers all the time, and I don't charge for my services. I have 4 rescues, so it does hit the heart,
Right.
And so and because they're happy with what I've been able to help them with, they share when I have classes, because let's be honest, all dogs need classes.
Right.
And help at some point, especially since we haven't been able to get out in the last 2 years.
Right, yeah. You're not used to seeing people or other people.
Right, or people in masks, or...
Sure. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was really big for a while.
All right. Interesting. You alluded to this question that I've been thinking about. When you are doing work with dogs, people in need of some kind, emotional, physical, whatever, it's got to be difficult to keep your business going or charge for your services when you feel emotionally attached to what they have going on. You just want to help them.
Yes.
When you're in a business like yours or even a therapy business of some kind,
Absolutely.
you want to just help and we'll figure out the money later. But the
Yeah.
money's got to pay for this so that you
Yeah.
can keep rolling, so you can offer this service continually.
Right.
So how do you navigate that little tightrope?
Yeah, it was really hard in the beginning. I said yes to everything and everybody. But what I learned, obviously, is, okay, so now I need this piece of equipment, or so now I have an autistic child coming in, so I need to, have special tools for them to handle. So, so slowly, my charges were getting higher than what I was bringing in. And so there's just a point where I look at money as like literally an energetic exchange. Like, this is just for. So it was a big block in my mind. Like you said, like being a nurse, you give 110%. I know most people would, but just my profession in general.
Right.
So I just had to just turn my mindset. Like, this is for the greater good, right? So.
And there's value in this.
Yes, valuing myself was huge. And that was something you said also. James, I should just go back in my syllabus and say, James was right. James was right. Here he was right.
Tell my wife that.
Right, yeah. So, and my husband, who's more of the business guy, he was, I have to say, probably my biggest cheerleader and sometimes my biggest, like, motivator, like scolder, like, okay, this is enough, like, you can't continue to do this to yourself, You want more dogs,
services
right?
going out, you need
Yeah.
money coming in so that you can keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Has it been tough talking with people about the whole money thing? Because I know sometimes
It is.
I guess with the call answering service, we'll take calls for therapists. And people want to tell you their life story, and you're like, time out.
Oh, wow.
We got to get you on the calendar. We got to line you with a therapist, and we got to get your payment information, whether that's insurance or credit card or whatever.
Right.
Like, you need these things before we can go into solving your problems.
Absolutely.
And it's very, I guess we, being the call answering service, we can intercept very easily.
Right.
Because we're the call answering service. We're not the therapist.
Right.
Or you're the therapist. And I feel like this is back when I had that printer repair company. So back before I had people answering phones, they get the technician.
Yes.
So just like, let me tell you my problem. You can tell me exactly how to fix it for free. It's like,
oh my
that's
God,
not.
I know. I've spent sometimes like literally an hour and a half, and like my husband's like, all right, like, you're unpaid. Not gonna yes, unpaid. I always, did free consultations because people would call and say, I don't know what you do. How can you help my kid? So I get into background, and then it's like, it's just automatic, right? I'm gonna start taking my assessment history. But I think how I got through that too was I'm like, okay, so let's relook at where my licensing, my nursing licensing can help. So I got myself into programs through the state that would help families pay for my services. So what that did was it forced me to look like, okay, how can I help these people out, but still so that I can get paid?
Right.
And so that was another huge
win-win.
Yeah. So and the I guess the caseworkers so then it was educating them like, oh, so you train service dogs? And I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, you train therapy dogs? I'm like, no. And but so until I would, and it was a lot of drawing up handouts and sending documents, and until now that they kind of have an idea what I do, they can say, oh, hey, I've got this client for you. And these services get paid for. So. Because the majority of my population is socioeconomically challenged.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Was that, it just happened? That's how it steered? Or is that typical?
It is typical because if we look at when a child's born in poverty, they don't have the tools and the support systems to, get good nutrition or their reading skills. And so, that's why we see a lot of delay. Not all of it, but that is a big part of it.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting because when you look at patterns for marketing of any business,
Right.
you just, it reminds me of teaching that class. I think this was a different group of students.
We had a pretty good group.
We had a very good group.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a very good group. There's a woman that, when I was talking about marketing and finding your target market,
Yes. Oh,
And then-
target.
yeah, push into that target market because you can't afford to market to everyone.
That's right.
And I don't think that was the same class that you were in, but there was a woman that got upset because she said, how can you ignore everyone else?
Oh,
How can you target, let's just say men, women, socioeconomic class, demographic,
right.
what road they're driving on, like pick your niche for whatever you're marketing based
Right.
on whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah.
How can you separate people like that? She was taking it as this political thing, and I'm like, you're not saying that you won't help the other people.
Right, right.
You're just saying I have so much money to spend on marketing,
Right.
and I got to spend it to the people that are more likely to become clients of mine.
Absolutely.
So when I know that my typical client is this, I'm going to pay to market to that typical client.
Absolutely.
Or spend my time there.
Right.
Instead of chasing people like, hey, I need to make, whatever demographic I'm after, however you want to split that demographic up.
Right.
Right? These people are only 4 feet tall. I want to go after people 6 feet tall.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, it was interesting how upset she got at that. I'm like, I don't think you're looking at this the right way. And then I thought, well, am I looking at it the wrong way?
It's self-doubt.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like,
Right.
I don't mean to be excluding anyone. I just know that,
I think it's just misunderstood.
yeah, I can't afford to market to everyone.
No.
Unless you're
And-
Coca-Cola or Budweiser, you probably can't either.
No, not everybody wants your
Right.
service
Yeah.
either. So I looked, when I target marketed, I looked at, where does the service lie? So I compared it to music therapy and art therapy, complementary therapies, aromatherapy. And then working with those individuals, and obviously you're going to see the largest changes, right, with people who have the biggest disability. I mean, I hate
Oh,
to
that's fair.
say
You can
that.
move the needle.
Yeah.
All right. Or move the
Yeah.
needle more, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. All right. So let me ask you about the clients that you have. Do they refer other clients to you?
Yes.
Okay.
That has also been so initially I thought by pairing up with other therapists and other providers in the field. So even my doctor, in the
Oh, sure.
office. But I will tell you, and it's probably me, I think I might have come across as like trying to take their clients from them. So that turned out not to be a really good avenue. So even though I thought, by saying, it would be kind of fun, like to help, enhance your practice, or maybe you could say like, if they work on a particular, so like physical therapy, for instance, they work specifically with muscle movement and fine motor skills.
Yeah.
And so perhaps they could send clients to me, or I could bring a dog in. I could contract working with them as maybe more of a motivation for that person to move, which is one thing why dogs work so much. It's even just the motivation, having the person calm, but my knowledge of that. So I take a physiologic approach, so working with the breathing part and the actual feelings part, because let's be honest, when you have anxiety, it's not just a mind thing. It's a body response, right? So I was hoping to pair with other people. So
Compliment. And they were taking it as like, hey, stay off my turf.
Exactly. It was really ugly. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna, it's just so funny how your, that's what I mean. Exactly. How your path just,
All right.
but again, going back to what you said, like, just get out there and try it. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no.
Right.
And so I've had a lot of no's, but
We all have.
Me too.
It's all good.
But it's, but it's the yeses, right? That you're just like, oh, this is why I'm still here. Why I keep moving forward.
And if you don't ask,
Yeah.
you're guaranteed to know.
Absolutely.
So you might as well ask to see if
Yeah.
there's a possibility for a yes.
Right. And it's so interesting because through your connection with the daycare, the doggy daycare,
Yep, lucky dog.
Lucky
Yep.
Dog, that really opened me up to, okay, so maybe I'm not looking exactly at people with disabilities. Maybe the people already have a dog that's kind of helping them, but that need that extra push.
Oh,
That
sure.
was my whole avenue, and then how I got into dog training, because now
Nice.
I'm working with other people's dogs. I have a lot of families that come to me. My doctor told me to get out and walk. My doctor told me to get a dog. So now they have a dog.
Right.
And they're like, this dog's driving me crazy, and now my anxiety is really out of the, you know.
It's kind of worse.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So, and these are the people that, some dog trainers are like, hey, you can't be in the, you know, if you've got anxiety, you know, and these people won't show up to group classes. So that's where I can come in and help them, because I understand the process of anxiety and
All right.
depression. So that was a whole nother pivot.
Sure.
That's
So
what
you're essentially training the trainer being the dog.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's what all the equipment around here is for.
Right, because we do everything off leash, outside, inside. The leash, I feel like, is the cause of a lot of dogs being reactive or being depressed. I mean, you see so many dogs working. I mean, when you have to have a dog on a leash, obviously going in a hospital, you don't want to walking with the IV pole and they give it out over because they're happy to see you.
Right.
So, but, and that was part of my, I guess, vision for the space was I wanted it freedom, off leash, that these people can, you know, go to what suits them. Like, you know.
All right. So most of what you're doing for training, is it more sit-stay type stuff, or does it go beyond that?
It goes beyond that. So, for instance, it's funny, I have a lot of couples that come in well, one in particular, and I'm just going to change the age and all that so nobody feels, but a super young couple had already had a dog that was older and got a puppy. And so it was so interesting. So we did private lessons. So my therapeutic dog training kind of was not only just working with the two dogs to get along in a household, right? Because now that's a big thing that happened over the pandemic. People got more dogs or added a cat. And it was so interesting because when they first showed up, they were, you're doing it wrong. No, you're doing it wrong. Arguing. And I'm like, oh, okay. So as we did some exercises together, we switched things around. By the end of our time together, and I think it was 6 weeks, the wife showed up like dressed nicer, and they were very like, oh, you did a good job. And then they asked her, like, do you do couples counseling therapy? So like literally, but you know, and that's part of it though. It's just getting, the dogs do bring people together, but also knowing how do you communicate with these people.
All right.
And their dogs, so.
That's gotta be tough.
It was, because in the beginning it was a lot of, you're doing it wrong and the dog's stressed out. Now you have a dog in the corner who won't come out to play because the two are, you know, not agreeing.
So, you're doing it wrong, this was husband to wife, or wife to husband?
Yeah, both.
All right.
But by the end.
And you're just hanging out like, whoa.
I'm like, no, let's start some exercises right away. Let's go.
Yeah. Wow.
So the therapeutic part is working with them and the dog, right? So that they have a dog that is comfortable in the home with this older dog, then also helping them to see that working together, being together. I mean, it's quite natural.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. That'd be a good feeling once you got that.
It is, but I didn't,
right.
I mean, my first thought, I do everything therapeutic, meaning that it's very like mind, body, spirit. We look at, I mean, I guess as a nurse, there's something called, all nurses, most medical people usually, well now it's definitely utilized more. It's our approach is more trauma informed, and this could be like even people, education, teachers, looking at maybe a child who's acting out and not saying what's wrong with you, what happened to you. So that's how I approach a lot of, and that's I guess where my nursing background comes in is okay. So maybe trauma is different to everybody. It doesn't have to have some, you know, I mean, everybody's had some event in their life where they've just shut down, or somebody told them something they'll never amount to anything, you know, or whatever. And you try to work through that. And so when I'm working with people, I take that approach as well. Like, okay, they're not acting out towards their dog because it's like, what happened to them that they're reflecting? And the dog sometimes will, that's why sometimes when you get naughty dogs, or people said, oh, my dog's got ADHD and I do too. And I'm like, Yeah, you're both kind of reflecting behaviors.
All right.
So, and we unfold through that. And I do it through movement and activity. Some
Okay.
people do talk therapy, and that's more of the, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, but
All right.
I'm movement.
All right. So when someone comes in and they have an issue, do you ever work with them a little bit and find out, actually, your issue is this? Because it sounds like people are coming to you with what they believe is their problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, they come to me with a dog with an issue, right? And that's where the dog training, getting my certification really helped, because then I can understand dog behavior. Is that, a behavior because of their breed? Is that a behavior because of their environment or what have you? And how do we train that, work with that, coach it? And so, I had a woman that came in. I see a lot of women.
Okay.
A lot of women veterans, actually,
Nice.
that come in. Yeah. One had MST, which is military sexual trauma. So right. So she was, I'll keep it. So anyway, no details, but we all know what that is.
Yeah.
Or it could entail. And she adopted a dog. And interesting, they both reflected a lot of her trying to get rid of the trauma that happened. So hypervigilance, looking around corners. So did the dog. But when she first came to me, it was the dog had the problem. But what the dog was reflecting was her hypervigilance as well, because she always looking behind her shoulders, is somebody coming or what have you. So once we worked with the dog to get used to how do we react if we are scared or fearful, I also worked with her to know that the dog will sense your fear. So we kind of had to work both ways.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be, I guess, in that situation, it's got to be challenging, but I imagine in whatever problem they're coming to you with,
absolutely,
you have to dig a little bit deeper than just the initial layer that they're giving you.
Right, and I think sometimes, like, when dog trainers are great people, but I think for me, working with people who have maybe a history or trauma, because all these people won't show up to dog class because they're just too afraid, but that's not good for them as well, because that keeps them hidden. So I think.
But I suppose that's a different.
Yeah.
The dynamic or goal.
Absolutely, right.
What you would take a dog to typical training class for.
Exactly. Because maybe you want to do dog sports, or you want to do.
Go up this ramp, sit, stay, play dead, whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. So different reason for going there.
Yeah.
So you started your business. It's been going for a little while.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges that you did not anticipate that you ran into?
Josie. Josie, you have to chew on that. Challenges.
Challenge one.
Right. Challenges that I didn't anticipate. Probably thinking that everybody would know that they need my service.
Oh, I'm guilty of that with a call answering service.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was one of those where I
That
thought,
was
I'm
huge.
going to hang my shingle.
Yeah.
Phone's going to ring off the hook.
Yep.
People are going to think, oh my goodness gracious, this is the best thing since sliced bread.
Yes, that
Just
was huge.
throw money at me. Business will grow to Amazon type levels in 2 weeks, whatever.
I know. I saw myself on the stage talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me inspire others.
Right. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to save the world and all the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Then you
fun.
just look at the phone like,
Oh, it was hard. It was hard. And it's hard when you have your family who understands what you're doing. But there are sometimes, like, my daughter would look at me like, Mom, I don't know what you do. I just don't know what you do. And I thought, well, I took that as feedback. It was hurtful, but I thought, you know what? If she can't understand what her mom
the person
does,
that lives with you doesn't know.
and she knows I live and breathed it. I researched. I did my capstone project on it. My master's was all animal-assisted therapy, and that was probably that was a big
Just a record
ouch.
scratch in your head like, whoa.
Because my phones were silent for quite a while. I maybe had one or two, like the first year, and it wasn't until I started, the pandemic.
All right.
That
So
really.
the pandemic's been good.
It's, fortunately.
There's nothing wrong with the business doing
Yeah.
well, right? Our business has done well with pandemic. There's lots of businesses that have done well with pandemic.
Yeah.
There are plenty of businesses, arguably too many,
Yeah.
that didn't do so hot.
Right.
Like, I'm super lucky, or go ahead.
Right.
I didn't have a restaurant
Right.
or bar. They had a rough time,
Right,
bad day.
absolutely.
Bad couple years.
Right.
So it's just right place, right time for
Yeah.
business.
And it was a service that I provided that turned out to be needed. I think with everybody knowing that with the pandemic, dogs got adopted like crazy, but people are, I guess the best thing that happened for dogs is that people realize that dogs are helpful. Like
Yes.
whether you have them in a class or therapy or not, having a dog living with you, it does extend your life. I mean, not everybody can afford a dog, and that's why I have dogs for people to work with. But I think that was honestly such a huge trigger that people saw dogs in a different light. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they got them through some tough times because a lot of people we couldn't see.
All right. Yeah, we could.
I mean, couldn't see older people or the very young. We had friends, we hadn't seen their baby for 9 months, 10 months.
Yeah.
Like, they basically stayed in their home, and I don't blame them.
Right.
There's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting time.
And I have to say, what also helped was that I had my own space, and that we built this specifically to be indoor, outdoor. And because a lot of public health was like, well, if you can be outdoors, you know, your time can be a little bit more, you know, generous. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, we followed all the protocols, but that was.
So you could adapt.
Absolutely.
You
That
weren't in
was,
somebody else's space.
yeah.
With limited.
Yeah, because they closed down buildings.
All right. Yeah. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
And you'd love to say that it was like, oh, I knew this was going to
No.
happen. This is-
I thought it was going to happen like the year before, you know, and that's when crickets. But.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're happy with the business?
Oh, yeah.
All
Love
right.
it.
So
Love it.
how do you see it growing in the next, let's call it 3 years? Who knows what's going to go beyond 3 years?
I know.
I'm afraid to look out beyond
say
that.
what's going to happen in
Yeah.
6 months. Gosh, I'd love to see this model of practice be practiced other places,
All right.
especially from a nursing perspective. I'd really love to grow it from a nursing provider perspective, because I am an independent nursing practice, I guess you could say, provider. So
Okay. All right.
I'd love to see that.
Do you anticipate employees?
I do. I would love to see that as well.
All right.
Because there are times where I simply just can't accommodate, because like Josie, I can't work her, 8 hours in a day. It's hard work.
Oh, I didn't think about the dog is essentially
Yeah.
an employee.
Absolutely. That was another huge, I guess, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Like,
Yeah.
So I have a nice network of people that have registered therapy dogs, so that I know that they've been tested and
All right.
that I can pull from if I need.
Nice. That is cool.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
Facebook, I have a website,
All right.
www.opheel.com.
Opheel.com.
Yeah, Operation H.E.E.L.
Okay, so
Yeah.
O-P-H-E-E-L.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And phone number?
My cell, 608-239-5671.
Nice. And then can you describe the location, I guess, where we are roughly? In the middle of nowhere.
Well, that's the point.
Well, it's
A
beautiful out here.
Country setting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far away from the city, but
Yeah.
there's so many trees and it's just open.
Right. And I also, I forgot to mention that we've got some horses on the property, so I'm also
Nice.
expanding into the horse therapy world.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
not only dog, but horses.
Very cool.
Yeah, we just adopted a 26-year-old brood mare. She's
26.
26,
How long do horses live?
35.
Oh, I'm not a horse guy, so.
No, if we're lucky, no. But yes, no, part of it was to be a partner to our young 3-year-old.
Oh,
gelding.
gotcha, okay.
But she's amazing.
All right.
She's had a tough life. She came from a kill lot.
Oh.
Yeah, they basically bred her till they couldn't get another foal off of her, which happens with purebred.
Okay.
I'm new to the horse world as far as that, but my daughter's like the horse trainer. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're located in Marshall,
All right.
about 7 minutes from the 94 from the highway.
All right. From 94 and N.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And, yeah.
So super simple. Do you bring in people from Milwaukee?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of people that want me to come visit them and show them how to incorporate a therapy dog. So like, I'm gonna head to Milwaukee to the LGBTQ has a office that they want me to come in and do a talk. So I'm
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cindy, you got a cool thing going on here.
Thanks to you, James.
I know.
Honestly. Well,
I gave some guidance. I didn't do all the work.
Your coaching was spot on. Everything you said, and I didn't believe you at first because I didn't want to believe it. I didn't.
Well, that's common.
I mean,
That's very common.
because you want, you have this idea that you love, and
Yeah.
I didn't want it not to work.
Yeah, I've probably destroyed some dreams. Not intentionally, but just like,
No,
I don't want you to
maybe
be-
not no, you just like redirected them.
Yeah.
You never destroyed. You're just like, think about this aspect.
right. I'm worried that someone's gonna go bankrupt or just go follow their dream without a plan.
Right.
And then just
Right.
spend without any plan
Right.
and just spend themselves into oblivion.
No. Right.
And then they're in a deeper hole
right.
trying, but still the same problem that they had when they first started digging.
Right. Right.
So just, you can hate me, but in a couple years you'll be happy.
Absolutely. Honestly, and I can't thank you enough. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here to talk.
Yeah, right.
It's just very cool.
Laying
We
on.
have a little actual history
Yeah.
together. It's been a while, but
Yeah, just, I guess so people understand, Cindy was in my business planning class, was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
all of that, yeah.
Yeah, back when you could have in-person classes.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good group. That was a fun group. So, at any rate, do you have anything that you'd like to share with people as far as advice? Things that you've learned or things you'd like, you can be the coach, right?
Oh, gosh, no. Things I learned, which, again, if I would have listened to James out the door, is definitely, like, low-cost options to advertise. I think one of the things, definitely logo, but maybe don't spend too much time on that. Just get something out there that reflects you. I know that branding is huge. That's like a whole other topic.
Right.
But I think getting a nice, sweatshirt or hat is great advertising.
Because people always ask.
Yeah, and it can be simple. Those are like low-cost things, I feel like. And referrals, at least in the service world, are huge because people want to, and especially now I think too, is trust. Can I
huge.
trust?
Yeah.
Most of the business I get is through, especially working with families
Yeah.
and children because they're, precious. And
Well, that's probably the biggest hurdle, I imagine, right? There's the marketing aspect, people know you exist.
right.
But there's also, for what you're doing, can I trust you?
Yeah,
It's
with
a
my
huge
child,
deal.
right?
Yeah.
And then you're marketing to parents who, have an emotional attachment to not only the child, but how their child's going to get treated.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. I love it. Cindy, you got a cool thing going on here.
Well, thank you.
I love it. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're underwritten locally by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, smash that subscribe button, give it a big old thumbs up, comment, and if you have any questions, by all means, throw them out there as well. My name is James Kateman, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering services for service businesses across the country. I forgot what we did for a moment. As well as Draw In Customers Business Coaching, offering business coaching services for entrepreneurs looking for growth. Man, I'm having a rough time talking. As well as the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Cindy Brosig, the owner of Operation H.E.E.L. Cindy, can you tell us that website one more time?
Sure. It's www.opheel.com.
opheel.com. Got it. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. The podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.